I'm going to start by talking about the show's animation philosophy, and then I'll get into how to use the scenes, the builds, and just the process. So you might have noticed a big change in style between the pilot and the season. The pilot was very goofy and rough looking, and then the season was very on model and rigid. Now, we need to try to strike a balance between those two things on this season, which is hard because we have to be on model all the time. But I think there's a bit of philosophy which helps you understand how to do that exactly. So the characters are 2D. They're not supposed to work in 3 dimensions. Charlie's got 2 eyes on one side of his head. Pim's eye on the edge is always bigger than the one in the middle. This doesn't really make sense in 3 dimensions, but that's the whole point. They've been designed to be viewed from a certain angle, and usually it's 3/4 angle, and you have to kind of draw them in that way. But if the camera is viewing them from a different angle, what the storyboarder does is he makes up a new design of the character being viewed from that angle. And if the camera were to rotate around them in 3 dimensions, it just would fall apart. So we don't do that, and it doesn't matter. So don't worry about trying to make them make sense in volume in 3D space. It's not Disney. It's kind of more Adult Swim or Newgrounds style. So keep that in mind, and I think you'll be able to make them look very on model while also being interesting and hilarious. Okay, now for the actual process. Now let's assume, first of all, that you have a layout scene. And in the layout scene, there should be two things. The animatic clip itself, which is a video you can play.
Yeah, it'd be like a million years or something, so.
With audio. And your background. This is my rough animation. It's animated.
Yeah, it'd be like a million years or something, so. Basically.
It's just keyframes. You can do whatever you want. I usually just do keyframes, and I don't do the in-betweens because you can just go straight ahead with clean on those. And today, let's just focus on Charlie. So, how did I get my Charlie? So, you jump on the drive. If you don't really know how to draw the characters, this will be helpful. You'll have some resources, including character models. So, these are called our builds. And I'll just bring the build into the scene here. Here it is. Don't do this to transform it because you might not be precise. Right click, flip horizontal, make sure that the sizes are accurate to the other characters relatively when you resize it. Okay, now when I do my roughs, I use the brush tool. You can do whatever you want, of course. I just find the brush tool is easier to draw with, and especially if it's a thicker brush. And it doesn't really matter what brush settings you use for roughs because it's not going to be seen on the screen. Okay, so that's your build, and that's in there for reference if you don't know how to draw the characters. Now, you don't have to be super on model. It's better if the character looks interesting. So, let's give it a go. I'll just try drawing him. Make it nice and streamlined. This is your rough, so you don't have to draw everything super clean. You can have a bit of overlapping lines. I do recommend pressing J on the keyboard, and then you can have objects, like object drawing mode. So if you make a mistake, your lines don't just automatically mesh together. This is a tricky part for me, so I guess I'm going to stop trying to draw it in one stroke. I'm going to start doing this. Bit by bit makes it easier. That's pretty close. I can do that because it's object drawing mode. Okay, I want him to have a kind of different pose, so I'm going to have his knees a little bit more bent. This is a pretty crucial area. Be careful not to have like a tangent here. I will draw in all the details just for today because I'm on my best behavior right now. Okay, so that's my Charlie for this rough. I'm only going to do one frame. Oh yeah, do make sure to transform, flip horizontally, and check if it's wonky at all. You can maybe just fix it by using transform tools, stuff like that. Okay, so basic takeaway. Do use the builds, please. You don't have to trace them directly, but you can use them to kind of make sure that your proportions are right. The curve on the back of Charlie's head is an important sticking point, so look out for that. You don't have to be super precise. In fact, I think you should make it fun. Be creative. Use your judgment, and we've just got that little build there to keep things from straying too far off model. Now, a crucial thing on Smiling Friends animation is that we generally only use 2 in-betweens for just about everything. So, to explain, I'll use this as an example. You got 2 keyframes, and then there's 2 in-betweens. So our first in-between is directly between the 2 keyframes. And then the second is a slow out, or like a settle. So that's what it looks like in motion. And here's a couple examples from season 1. All right, that's it. Say bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Paul.